So my partner and I just finished watching The Residence on Netflix the other day, and I am obsessed with it. I haven't sat down and watched a show like that in a very, very long time. I think the last time I watched something just like all the way through was Criminal Minds, and we only got through like season 12 or 13. I was watching that with a friend of mine. So it's been a very long time since I've done that, but this was just so fun. It's a Shonda Rhimes production, and I just have to say it's incredibly well written. It's well produced. All of the sets are really interesting. The way it's filmed is really interesting. It was just really cool. Really enjoyed it. Glad that we decided to watch it. But my partner had a great suggestion, which was to make a video like my recommending books to video game characters series, but instead, I'm going to recommend books to the Residence characters. However, The Residence has a much larger cast than any of the video games that I've talked about up to this point. I think after filtering out all of the like side characters that only come up a few times, the kind of one-off characters, and a few characters that come up as a part of some of the twists later in the show, so I obviously don't want to spoil it for you, I still had a list of 20 characters to talk about. So, to make this a little bit more manageable, we're going to break this up into 3 parts. And here in part 1, we're going to recommend some books to the investigators and also the victim. So to kick things off, we have to talk about our main character, Cordelia Cupp. She's the detective on the case. She comes in, she's like our eccentric Sherlock type character, and she is just so much fun to follow. She's extremely competent. She's also very no-nonsense, and she doesn't take any shit from anyone, but she also has this like fun, snarky, deadpan sense of humor, and she's an avid birder, which ends up playing a lot into the way that she approaches the mystery. She pays a lot of attention to like small details that other people are missing, and she takes the time to put those things in context, and then she uses birding as a metaphor to explain what she's trying to achieve at various points throughout the show. So I just really enjoyed her. I thought she was a really fun character, but I realized that she was reminding me a little bit of Murderbot. So I have to recommend her the Murderbot books, which I think she could fit in between her birding trips. They're short, but this is a character who is, again, very competent, very focused, very observant, good at putting things in context and understanding the bigger picture of things, but also very snarky, very deadpan, doesn't take shit from anyone, and I think there's a lot of overlap there, so I think that Cordelia would have a fun time with this series and would appreciate Murderbot's kind of directness and vibe of being very done with everyone's shit all the time. The second character is actually the victim. Not one of the investigators, but very central to the investigation, obviously. What I really liked about this character, which is A.B. Winter, he's the chief usher of the White House, is that he is extremely present throughout the show, despite being dead at the very start of it. We're following him at all of these like flashback moments, and we end up learning a lot about his character. We learn a lot about the kind of person he was, and particularly about his love for the White House, his love for his job, and his like feeling of duty and responsibility to keep the White House running smoothly, the way that he feels about new people coming in and kind of messing things up, kind of throwing gunk in the gears and making things difficult. And I really liked how much we learned about him across the course of the story. But with that, like, love of the White House and what it represents being so central to that character, I thought that a good recommendation for him would be A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid. In the show, A.B. Winter is very, like, conflict-averse. He does not like to have public conflict, so I don't think he would be as direct in any of what he has to say as Jamaica Kincaid is, at least not in front of other people. But this book, if you're unfamiliar with it, is Jamaica Kincaid's kind of nonfiction piece talking about the island of Antigua, and specifically talking about the negative impacts that tourists have when they arrive in Antigua. The ways that tourist behavior and tourists' just, like, general disregard for the environment and for the culture and the landscape creates problems for the island itself and for the people who actually live there, the people that are there all the time. And it's very much infused with her, like, affection for the island of Antigua and her care for it and her desire for other people to see it the way that she sees it. And it's a really interesting piece of writing. It's also really snarky. It's very direct. There's a lot of moments where it's putting you in the shoes of a tourist who is fucking up the island. And I just think it's a really interesting way of approaching it. And I think that A.B. Winter would have a lot of appreciation for what she's writing and how she's writing it here in her kind of defense of Antigua and her effort to get other people to understand the impact that they're having on it. Third character we have is our sort of Watson-like character. This is Edwin Park. He's, I believe, an FBI agent who gets assigned to help Cordelia throughout the investigation. There's this issue of it being in the White House, so there's all these different jurisdictions that are clashing, and so he gets assigned to help her. She thinks he's there to kind of act as a roadblock and keep her from doing anything that people don't want her to do, but he ends up mostly being a sidekick throughout the story, and he is not very good at following her chain of logic. There's all of these moments where he has to check in and be like, wait, no. What are we doing? What's happening? What are you talking about? And she spends a lot of time using her birding analogies to explain to him, like, what the hell is going on. So I think for him, I want to recommend him Murder in the Family by Kara Hunter, because this is just like a really fun mixed media mystery, and I don't think he would guess what's happening here. I think he would at various points think it was whoever was the most obvious person, because that is very much his role in the show, is to guess whoever is the most obvious must be the killer. And I think that he would never guess it, so I think it would be really shocking for him to see the end of this book. The next character we have to talk about is Agent Trask. He is, I think his first name is Colin, Agent Colin Trask. He's the head of the president's secret security detail, and he's a little bit airheaded. He's very, like, dazzled by all of the celebrities that are present at the White House. Did I mention that the entire mystery happens during a state dinner, when there's, like, all of these celebrities and foreign dignitaries and politicians and such at the White House? That's what's happening. And so Agent Trask is just kind of, you know, star-eyed over all of these people that are at this dinner. So he's constantly getting distracted. He's constantly trying to figure out what's going on, because he was gone for 5 minutes. He got wandered off to go talk to Kylie Minogue, and now he's confused at what's happening. And so I wanted to recommend for him The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, because I think that Riley Sager's books are just like fun cotton candy books. Usually by the end, I feel like, okay, that was a lot of nothing, but I think The Last Time I Lied is the best of his early work. I think it was his second book, and honestly, I really think the mystery is well done in this one, but Riley Sager does a lot of that, like, constant twists and constant reveals, and there's always something pulling you through. Chapters are pretty short, so I feel like that kind of fast pace and the constant reveals, all the juicy little bits of information that you get throughout the story, I think that would help to keep Agent Trask invested, because he's very flighty, and he would need something that was like quick and easy to read, because otherwise I don't think he'd be able to focus on it. I think he'd have to do it as an audiobook, and he is constantly wearing headphones during the show. He's constantly like listening to Kylie Minogue in his little AirPods, and so I think he would have to do it as an audiobook, and he absolutely would be like listening to that while he was doing his work. Next up is Larry Dokes, who is the chief of police of the Metropolitan Police Department, and he's the one who brings Cordelia in to work on this investigation. He is very calm, very competent. He has this very much roll with the punches vibe, but he also isn't going to take disrespect from the other people there, because there's a lot of other, heads of various law enforcement agencies who are kind of vying for power, and he's not going to take shit from them, but he's very calm in a way that most of the other characters are not. And he also has this sort of mentor relationship with Cordelia. We don't learn a ton about that, but there's clearly this sort of almost fatherly vibe to him as he's interacting with her. It's clear that their relationship is very close, that he has supported her throughout her career, and for that reason, I want to recommend him The Silence of Bones by June Hur. The relationship in this one is quite a bit different, because our main character here is a young girl, she's 16 or so, and the police detective that she's working with, I can't remember his name, but the detective she's working with is also much younger, and Dokes is sort of nearing retirement age, but I think he would really appreciate and like the relationship that forms in here, the sort of supportive mentorship thing that emerges out of it, almost like a familial bond, but clear that the detective is really pushing this girl to be her best and to use her skills well, but also to not push those boundaries so much that she puts herself into a dangerous position. So I think that he would appreciate the relationship in here. Also, he strikes me as a little bit of a softie, so I think he would probably cry like I did at the end of this book, and I think he would enjoy the way that the mystery unfurls and the way that that coincides with the development of this sort of mentorship relationship in here. The last two characters we had to talk about, I'm going to talk about kind of together, because they both actually are from the framing device for the show. So this show is framed as though it's a congressional hearing. There's been an investigation, and throughout the show we're really watching the investigation, but it's really a congressional hearing happening in kind of the present timeline, where all of the people who were involved in that original investigation are being brought in to answer questions about it, because there's still some questions about what exactly happened in the White House that day. So the first of our two kind of major senator figures that show up is we have Senator Filkins. He's the one who's leading this congressional hearing. He's the one asking all the questions, and he's very much like an old guard politician. He's believes in, like, you know, reaching across the aisle and making deals with people. He believes in this kind of behind the scenes democratic process, and a lot of his beliefs get kind of undermined throughout the show. So I feel like for him, I want to recommend Persuasion by Jane Austen, which is very much a book about tensions between kind of the old aristocracy and these newer people coming in, specifically in this one, naval officers who have won money out doing their job, where they have, like, captured enemy ships and then received a portion of that money. So there's all these, like, new money naval officers, and it's the tension between those two groups of people and their beliefs about the importance of, like, a name and the importance of having land as a symbol of wealth versus having money, like disposable income, as a symbol of wealth. So it's really interesting, like, tension between those two things of the old way of doing things and this kind of new and up and coming way of doing things. And I think that this book, similarly to the show, doesn't really fall on one side or the other. You're left with this kind of unstable ending that doesn't really resolve. Like, it's not saying the new money guys have the right idea. They're, you know, in the right. We should let them, like, fully take the reins. But it's also not saying, like, well, the old money guys are right and we should let them continue to stick to their traditions. It's kind of finding this tenuous piece between the two sides. So I think this would be a really good recommendation for him. And then our other character is Senator Bix, and she's sort of a Marjorie Taylor Greene type character, where she's essentially putting on a front to the people at large, but also, like, clearly is more reasonable behind the scenes when the cameras are off. So I think she's an interesting character, and so I wanted to recommend her, Convenience Store Woman, because of this, like, in her persona that she's displaying, she's kind of going against what people expect and what they want from her. Like, obviously she's supposed to be a sort of MTG sort of character, and kind of rubbing people the wrong way, going against the grain, behaving in a way that people find unpleasant or reprehensible, which very much we have a character who is behaving that way towards others. But I think the thing that would be interesting for Senator Bix is that this character is doing it all of the time. It doesn't really have anything to do with whether people are watching, and this character is very firm in her belief that she should get to live her life on her own terms, in her own way, and it's kind of an exploration of that, of, like, what happens when she tries to conform versus what happens when she is refusing to conform. So it's kind of an exploration of that, and so I think it'd be interesting for Senator Bix because she is allowing herself to, like, put on that performance to gain power, but what is she losing for herself when she is behaving that way to appeal to a certain group of people? I think that would be an interesting question for her to think about in reading Convenience Store Woman. So yeah, those are all the recommendations I have. We'll just go ahead and grab our little stack here. Those are the recommendations I have for the investigators of The Residence. Next episode is going to be the first family, so the president and his family, and then episode 3 will be the staff, the people who actually work in the White House. I think this is going to be a fun series. I'm looking forward to recommending books to all of those characters. For now, I'd love to know in the comments below if you enjoyed this format, if you enjoyed this little spin-off from my other series. I'd also love to know if you've seen The Residence and what you thought of it if you have. I think for now, though, that's all I have for you, so I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you consider giving me a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting on Tuesdays and Saturdays, sort of, not so much in May, but I'm hoping to get back to it in June, so twice a week, hopefully. Really hope to see you in the next video. Bye.